the heyday of Hammer films, Flesh and Blood.
They remain on record as the most consistently successful British film company in history. From offices in Wardour Street in the heart of London's film business district, and from the small Thames-side studio near Windsor Castle, they made films that played in every country in the world, in every category of entertainment. Grand period adventures like Pirates of Blood River, grim military stories such as Yesterday's Enemy, police dramas, suspense thrillers, comedies, travelogues, dramas.
But for most of the world, the name Hammer conjures images of fantasy and terror. Like comedies from Britain's Ealing studio, cartoons from Disney, or westerns from the Republic, the Hammer style was unique and distinctive. By subtle implication and by graphic depiction, the company made its international reputation with the primal elements of exploitation films: sexuality and violence, flesh and blood.
But the ties of Flesh and Blood were also quite literal. A business enterprise with a family atmosphere extending from the front office to the cast and crew, to the clapper boy and the cooks in the canteen. Home video has given renewed life to these now classic tales. Original soundtracks and paperback tie-ins have become valued collector's items. Posters given away free to theatres now sell for hundreds, sometimes thousands of pounds. An album of film scores from Silver Screen Records sold out immediately in the UK, the US, and Europe.
Why then do these films inspire such nostalgic devotion? And why did the company's world influence seem to fade after 20 years, like a vampire in the rays of the morning sun?
The growing facility at Bray Studios reflected the company's expanding horizons.
We all lived through the times when the first stage went up. There was never a stage when I went there. And then a second stage went up. The field where we shot Quatermass with the rocket coming down and the tree and all the fire engines, they finally built stage on that too and everything. So all our stuff there went.
This macabre world peeked over the studio fence.
In those days, the filmmakers still actually knew how to make films and not deals.
We had 6 weeks to make the movies.
Well, one just had to do it in the time that was allotted, and it was never enough.
After we'd been making for a while, I was asked if we could cut down, make them a bit cheaper. I was always being asked that.
The ready reckoner, if you've got a ready reckoner in your mind, that ticks over, and you know exactly which line to take.
Construction is 85%. Dialogue's not important. The actors are going to change, the actors and the directors are going to change the dialogue anyway.
If an audience thinks about Jimmy's script, then you're dead. But Jimmy used to get them rattling along at such a pace that the audience didn't have time to think about them.
We would bring the films in on budget and on schedule and deliver them. The Americans were really only interested in delivery dates, because once they put it on a piece of paper, it was gospel.
I mean, I thought the stars were behind the camera more than in front of it.
Tony Hines, who was really the head of production at any rate at Hammer.
He was a very shy man and didn't get involved in films on the floor. He was real behind-the-scenes guy.
Tony was the master at it, and he had Terry there. I mean, why interfere with a winning formula?
We were all a wonderful team, really.
I was ready, and they buried me up to my neck, and it was getting on for lunchtime. So they said, right, we'll come and shoot the scene after lunch. So there I was, left.
The art direction, of course, was absolutely superb.
Bernard Robinson had art director for certainly all the original horror films. Very, very clever man in making a lot out of not very much.
You know, they made films in all sorts of genres. They made war pictures and, you know, program movies.
We took a few more chances, perhaps, but the structure, the family feeling, the flavor, the units, the directors remained very much the same.
Listen to the themes of James Bernard, and you can hear the syllables of the film's title.
Technically, the pictures were very good. And Jack Asher's camera work and James Bernard's scores were exceptional. They seemed to be doomed to do the same thing and just have to keep repeating themselves over and over.
Bernie Robinson, brilliant. An awful lot of what we got away with, and I can actually say got away with, was due to Bernie. In Yesterday's Enemy, it was the Burma War. Bernie did Revolving Jungles and things. Lord Louis Mountbatten, who was president of the Burma Star Association, sat next to me at the premiere. And during the picture, he said, "I know that place. Where did you shoot that? I know that place." I hadn't the heart to say on stage 3 at Shepperton. And then they had a set there which was a Ruritanian village, which was a standby set they kept the whole time. I have to keep repairing it.
Suitably redressed, this Ruritanian village became Parisian back streets, alleys of Victorian London, or the docks of Hong Kong. For the 1959 remake of The Mummy, Bernard Robinson's art department and construction crew recreated the tombs of ancient Egypt.
It was a very good movie. It looked absolutely wonderful. It looked like a multi-million-dollar film. You know, the real stars of Hammer, in my opinion, were people like Bernard Robinson, the art director.
Pre-production art puzzled me. I saw a poster of the mummy striding through the countryside with a light shining through his body as though he had a car headlamp or something. And I said to Teddy Fisher, we mustn't cheat the audience. Could I take the harpoon in the study and run it right through old Christopher, and he can just break it off and just carry on regardless?
But it did enable me, with movement and with the eyes and the thought in the eyes, to create a character. The movement is terribly important, how you reach out a hand. How you reach out a hand, is it to take somebody, or is it, because you're desperately seeking help?
Tony didn't think The Mummy was serious enough. I mean, by this time, he's now steeped in the true Gothics, and it's quite true, The Mummy is a little bit more colourful and a little bit more adventurous. I liked doing it. In fact, the only horror films I ever personally made were the 2 mummies, or if not 3, I can't remember. I enjoyed directing, of course, yes. I mean, I don't know anybody who wouldn't enjoy directing.
The terrifying story of a rampaging bandit and bone monster, stalking those who defiled its tomb of terror.
Kenneth Hyman, son of Hammer's silent partner and later head of Warner Brothers, proposed a Sherlock Holmes series to begin with The Hound of the Baskervilles.
Some revolting sacrificial rite has been performed. What depths a human being can sink to.
What human being could have done this?
That is precisely what I intend to find out.
But how can you be so certain that somebody took one of the bishop's spiders and deliberately placed it in Sir Henry's room? That it wasn't in the luggage he brought from South Africa?
Elementary, my dear Watson. There are no tarantulas in South Africa. What do you want me to do? Identify anything I may find. Strange things are to be found on the moor. Like this, for instance.
In fact, after doing The Curse of Frankenstein, the next part I played was the romantic lead, Sir Henry Baskerville, in The Hound of the Baskervilles.
Why? You thought it was going to be easy, didn't you? Didn't you? You won't be the first of your family who thought that. And you won't be the first to die because of it.
Alas, Holmes did not inspire a string of sequels like Dracula or Frankenstein.
Which way? For heaven's sake, which way?
West End playwright Wolf Mankiewicz received double Hammer's usual salary for this Freudian twist on Dr. Jekyll.
Let me alone, Jekyll. Let me alone.
Jekyll.
I deserve nothing better than you.
Desire drove her to deception. Jealousy drove him to madness.
Will we ever know who we really are? Who are you, Kitty? Who are you?
Where's Henry?
Believe me, your husband is here.
But audiences didn't warm to the film, nor to the handsome Mr. Hyde. The picture was a financial failure under several titles.
At that time, we actually were doing, in my opinion, some of the best films we ever made. And then Tony found The Pony Cart, which I think was a play, and turned it into a very strong film, warning, never take sweets from a stranger.
That's right. That was the only film I photographed for them, yes, which I thought was a very good film. I think that's the trouble if you have a sort of trademark like Hammer, you have to keep producing the same films.
Critics never forgave us for being successful, there's no doubt about that. They accused us of really trying to capitalize on the elements of it. It was a very, very wrong criticism. And it was started by a couple of critics who actually never, ever gave a Hammer film of any sort a good critic.
The Damned also lost money at the box office. The financial failure of these experiments convinced James Carreras to stay within the proven formula. It was hard to argue with success. Michael Carreras ordered The Backlot transformed for a film about the Inquisition, but the Catholic League of Decency threatened to ban it. Luckily, Jimmy Carreras sold Universal on another movie on the basis of a poster. But Hammer had to absorb the cost of a Guy Endore novel, Werewolf of Paris. With no money left, Tony Hines became a writer out of necessity.
No, and all I know is I was landed with a set of Spanish sets.
British censors objected to everything. The violent conception of the werewolf child, his sacrilegious birth on Christmas Day, even a nobleman picking a scab from his nose. Hammer argued that the film was less graphic than Psycho. The censor replied, Terence Fisher is not Hitchcock.
Oliver Reed was one of the many who got early breaks with Hammer, including Leslie Ann Down, Donald Sutherland and Freddie Jones. Recurring character actors like Michael Ripper, Richard Wordsworth, George Woodbridge and Miles Malleson gave the films the cosy feel of a rep company.
The quality of acting in those pictures was way above what you would usually get in that kind of film. I think people realized that good actors could indeed find elements in these characters that really brought out some of the drama.
who robs the graves of Egypt dies.